Hey friends, it's your friendly neighborhood game master Zach Hall here. I have a bit of a rant today. I'm going to try to keep it as on point and concise as possible to let people know about a gap I have found in the Pathfinder 2e ecosystem, and also to maybe put it out there to get some help from you, the community, to see if other people have run into similar problems or have found a solution that seems to work with them. So let's talk about it. As you might know, I'm about to wrap up the beginner's box with my party. I am running the game for 3 brand new players. We've been loving the beginner's box, mainly the really high quality flip mat that is included in the adventure and the pawns. My players have just really loved it. They've never played the game before, so something like a huge grid that takes up the table allows them to kind of explore. They've really enjoyed. We're about to wrap up the beginner's box adventure and launch into an adventure path. I'm pretty sure we're going to be running Rise of the Rune Lords converted for 2e, and I've begun prepping what that might look like for us as we finish up the beginner's box. Unfortunately, Paizo doesn't have high quality printed maps for their adventure paths like they do for the beginner's box, which makes sense. It's a lot more, and not every map is equally sized. You never really know exactly what you're gonna need, so I understand. But the maps was important to me and my table, so the alternative to that best suited me and my prep style was moving to some form of digital map usage. And while I'm there in my head, I'm already like, okay, well, if I'm already going to have like a TV sitting on the table, probably with tokens as a part of the map using digital tokens instead of physical pawns, since Paizo also announced those are being discontinued for adventure paths in the near future. I was like, well, why don't I go ahead and move my character sheets to digital as well? I've been running the game as close to pen and paper as we could, and Beginner's Box enabled us to do that pretty easily. One of my players has a visual impairment that we needed to move him to a digital solution just for him to be able to read and navigate his character sheet easily. And the other players have expressed their desire to move to a digital sheet too, which I'm okay with as long as we can keep it to just their character sheets and hopefully to a tablet sized device or smaller. I don't want the table to be taken up with laptops, etc. I'm afraid of people too easily getting distracted by something that isn't the game and having to wrangle up a bunch of other adult friends and feel like I've got to put my teacher voice on to get them to pay attention. I'm hoping tablets will help ease that a little bit. Problem is that due to the nature of the work me and my friends do, all of us are on iOS devices. I had one Android device in my house, a cheap Kindle Fire 10 that I got several years ago. My daughter uses it when we go on road trips to watch movies and stuff like that, keep her entertained. But had it laying around the house, it was easy to put the Pathbuilder 2e app on that device and mess with the settings to get the font size big enough for my player to be able to navigate. Unfortunately, I don't have any more Android devices, and so I started looking at what are some solutions that we can do on iOSs so I don't have to buy more devices, or my players don't have to buy a device just to be able to manage their character sheet. Unfortunately, here's the gap in the Pathfinder 2e system I have found. There isn't really any good tools that support iOS or tablet sized browsers very well. Um, Unfortunately, Foundry, it's a full fledged virtual tabletop that could have handled both maps and my players' character sheets. Unfortunately, Foundry, specifically the Pathfinder 2e system, just straight up does not support iOS at all. I won't get into the technical bits of it because I don't think it really matters at the end of the day, but it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation of Foundry initially didn't support Apple devices, and so Pathfinder 2e developers made the decision to just not bother putting in any kind of support for iOS browsers. And then when Foundry went to potentially go and add in iOS devices on their supported device list, they realized they couldn't because Pathfinder 2e, being one of the most popular systems on the platform, not supporting iOS devices at all, they felt that would be disingenuous and misleading advertisement. So bit of a chicken and egg situation there. It's not extremely clear if that will ever change. I spoke to several of the Pathfinder 2e developers on Discord, and the general consensus there is that the existing team doesn't have any iOS devices, or they're not interested in doing any kind of testing and developing specifically for iOS, that someone else in the Pathfinder 2e community who is a developer with experience building for WebKit, the background tech that runs browsers on iOS devices, they would have to basically do it themselves and get the developers to incorporate their changes. That seemed not something that's going to be done relatively quickly. And while I do have that kind of background, I don't necessarily have the time or the desire to work on an open source project and continually be kind of needing to be the one iOS WebKit developer for a huge system like Pathfinder 2e. So Foundry just immediately out. Even with modules, Pathfinder 2e does not work on iOS devices. So we've already used Pathbuilder. I've really enjoyed the web interface. One of my players is using the Android app. Let's just use Pathbuilder for the character sheets. I'll deal with my maps in another way, where yes, there's a separation between the maps on the TV and the character sheets on the tablets around the table, but I can deal with that. Problem: Pathbuilder 2e was originally an Android-only app. The web app has come in the last year, 18 months or so, but the web app is not usable on phone-sized devices, and I found that even though it says it supports tablets in landscape mode, the UI is extremely clunky and small for touch events. Being able to use a finger to be able to navigate is really difficult, and it's not completely the way that it was developed and the UI was built. Adjusting the font size doesn't have the kind of impact that you would hope. So accessibility is really low. While I like Pathbuilder, I do think it's the best Pathfinder 2e character builder out there. I don't want to have laptops at the table, so I kind of have to scratch it off. If you can't run it appropriately on a iPad in either portrait or landscape and adjust the font sizes to be readable, that kind of leaves it off the option table for me. Probably the second most popular character builder for Pathfinder 2e is Wanderer's Guide. It's a web-based app, wanderersguide.app. I like it. It's okay. I actually do like the build process better on Wanderer's Guide, especially for level 1 characters, especially for new people. It really walks you through the ABCs of character creation. All the details of a trait or an action are there in the app and are diveable, so you can click on a trait, read the description of that thing. There's hyperlinked text inside of that description. You can click on that and navigate up and down descriptions as much as you need. It works really well on the web. I like the UI more on Wanderer's Guide than I do on Pathbuilder. It does technically work on tablets, either portrait mode or landscape mode. The issue I have with Wanderer's Guide is a similar problem that Pathbuilder and Archives of Nethys have. They run really poorly, if sometimes not at all, on peak times to play Pathfinder. So your weekends and your evenings, it can be really difficult to get the website to respond in a quick way. Sometimes it's just down, period. And from what I can tell, Wanderer's Guide is not nearly as frequently updated as Pathbuilder is. The developer does host the site on GitHub, so you can see when he's made changes, or when they've made changes. The developer of Wanderer's Guide seemed to do the most work last year, and it has died down in the past 6 months. The last updates were made back in May. Not incredibly responsive to things like GitHub issues. They don't have a subreddit, which is my preferred method of communication. They do have a Discord, but it's quiet compared to other Pathfinder 2e related communities that I've been in. I can't speak to how responsive the developer is at Wanderer's Guide, but it seems like a really close solution. I'm hesitant to put all of my players onto Wanderer's Guide, just because I don't know how long if that project will continue long term, and I don't like the fact that a web app can't handle its traffic at peak times. So that might change, and I'm going to continue to keep an eye on it, and it might be what I end up going with in a few weeks, or it's probably going to be like a month plus before I actually need to move my characters there, but I'll keep an eye on it. The third option that I was really hopeful for, but I just don't think is going to work, is Hero Lab. Hero Lab has been around for a long time, a decade plus at least. They were very popular with Pathfinder 1e, I believe, and supported several other systems like Mutants and Masterminds, Savage Worlds, etc. It's a paid service, which I don't have a problem with. Happy to pay for services. I'm happy to join Patreons, etc. of tools and supporting the people that do things that I use consistently and enjoy. I want them to keep doing it. It isn't cheap, but it's not the most expensive thing in the world, but it is a subscription. So it's not a one-time fee. The hard part of Hero Lab is that on top of the monthly, or I think it's semi-annual subscription fee, which is around it ranges between $15-$30 depending on what you need. You also then have to buy the actual system itself, which I believe was $25. Then you have to buy each additional book to access its source. And I understand it's because they're using they've got a license with Paizo. It's not a fan-made thing since it is charging money. But it's, $15 to add every rule book. So if I wanted to add the Advanced Player's Guide, the Game Mastery Guide, and Guns and Gears and Secrets of Magic, and maybe a Lost Omen book for some ancestries and backgrounds, that can easily run up to another $100 of content. And when perusing, researching Hero Lab online, I saw a lot of folks having poor or negative experiences using Hero Lab online, saying that sometimes the math is wrong, which is not great for a paid product, that it is clunky, which isn't great for a paid product. But on the flip side, it works really well. It seems to work really well on mobile devices, in a browser. iOS devices are fully supported. And another huge thing that I think I didn't realize I wanted, but once I saw what it did, I do want it. they have the ability to have campaigns with players inside of campaigns that allows them to, if one of my players, the bard casts Inspire Courage, that buff can actually be automatically calculated into the other PC sheets, and I can see all their sheets in real time to know how much HP they have, quickly grab their potentially buffed perception modifier, their stealth modifier, stuff like that. So I'm still on the fence with Hero Lab. A lot of feedback I've seen is semi-old, at least 6 months old. I've posted a thread to Hero Lab's official forums, but all of their forum threads have to be moderated. And mine, as at least 4 hours later, has not actually been posted and gone live, which I don't like. I don't like the appearance of developers seeming to have a strict moderation policy on the type of conversations that happen, especially if they are silencing negative conversations about the tool. And their forums in general are not popping off. There isn't a lot of conversation happening, which makes me think that maybe the community, the user size around Hero Lab Online and Pathfinder 2e might be low, which I don't have a problem with, but just again speaks to potential longevity, especially for something that I'm paying for. There is a fourth option that doesn't exist yet, but hopefully will be released sometime before the end of the year. And this will probably be my hot take, controversial, especially since I just talked about maybe not wanting to spend money at Hero Lab. But there is an official Paizo digital toolset being developed by a company called Demiplane called Pathfinder Nexus, which is in development. I think in the most recent dev update, they are actively beginning to work on the front end user interface, meaning hopefully that means their back end to be able to do all the math and stuff is close to being, complete or entering at least some kind of internal beta phase. It's basically the D&D Beyond for Pathfinder 2e. In fact, Demiplane's, I don't know if he's CTO or just head developer or something like that, but the face of Demiplane's tech stack and the work they're putting in there is the same guy who was the initial head developer at D&D Beyond. And it seems like he's done a really good job of learning from maybe some past mistakes at D&D Beyond, especially when it comes to the actual code running the app. That makes me really happy and really interested in the product. Again, I don't have a problem paying for a service that is doing a good job, especially a seemingly very professional and financially backed company like Demiplane. They've already created or gotten deals with Pathfinder. Was their first Nexus, which is like their digital tool set. They've got one for World of Darkness, and they are the digital tool set for the brand new Marvel RPG, where the public beta test and play test is going on. So they're going to be around, I think. And I like that they provide discounts to people that have already purchased rulebooks from Paizo. So you can connect your Paizo.com account with Demiplane and get a decent discount on books, but you will have to buy books again one at a time. I did the same thing for D&D Beyond, and D&D Beyond drastically changed and improved my ability to run games for new people. I would have zero problems doing the same thing for Pathfinder Nexus at Demiplane. My hope is that because of their size, that they will be properly supporting web browsers from the get-go. But again, that's not going to be available until at least probably Q4 of 2022, if not going into 2023. So all that said, I think when I start Rise of the Rune Lords, I'm going to be using Owlbear Rodeo as my my map handler. I like Owlbear Rodeo a lot, and it is very simple and easy. for what I need to do, which is just put a grid on a map and do some simple fog of war. I don't need any kind of automations or fancy effects, stuff like that, even though it does some of that. I just don't need it. So Owlbear Radio is where I'm probably going to be doing my maps. I'm probably going to see if my players like and can get the hang of Wanderer's Guide, at least for the next few months. It's not what I would prefer. It's not my ideal, but that might just be my quirks as a former web developer doing back end and front end. I'm sometimes picky. As long as the math works and on a device that they need to use it on, it actually functions and is readable and accessible, and the website works when we play on Friday or Saturday nights, then I won't have a problem. And maybe we stick with Wanderer's Guide for a while, and maybe the app continues to be developed and sees a lot of improvements, like a GM run campaign tool would be amazing. If you've had experience with Hero Lab Online and Pathfinder 2e, let me know. Especially with Pathfinder Nexus kind of on the way, I'm definitely less inclined to drop $100 or so on something like that if I'm not going to stick to it, if it's not great. But I haven't seen any more recent feedback than like 6+ months ago. So maybe the developer team has made changes and it works great. So that's it. Kind of some frustrations. It sucks that as Apple users, we are kind of on the outside looking in when trying to use some of the community's most popular tools. I understand that I'm part of the problem by not necessarily contributing, though. I think I could probably help in some areas. It's been a long time since I was a full-time developer, and it's not I understand the size of the task that the people building things like Pathbuilder and Wanderer's Guide have. It is extremely difficult to be a solo developer on a big project that is well loved by passionate users who are extremely opinionated on how their thing works. So 100% get it. If you use Pathbuilder or Wanderer's Guide, shout them out and give them props in the comments below. I'm going to include a link to both the sites themselves, but also their Patreons, where you can sign up to give them $1, $3 every month, just to say, hey, I like what you're doing, and I think it's worth a couple of bucks of my money every month, which I think it is. Go ahead and do that for Archives of Nethys too. The bigger team, but definitely, support the artists and the engineers who are creating the tools for what we use. So thanks for listening to this rant. If you've got any thoughts or encouragement or next steps that I could possibly take or start researching, please let me know in the comments. If your table has run into similar issues because of the devices that you use, let me know. If there's a big enough user base who's missing out on something, we can let these teams know so that maybe they can adjust their priorities and start supporting iOS devices and smaller devices more. I don't know, maybe we can, be the change we want to see in the world. But regardless, I'm extremely looking forward to running Rise of the Rune Lords, and we will talk more here on my channel on my prep for that and any adjustments that I might make for the AP, since we are converting it from 1 to 2, and my players will probably be at least part of the way through to 2nd level when we start the AP that was built for 1st. So we'll talk about that more here on the channel in the near future. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe button if you haven't already, and enjoyed this content, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.